Ready? All right. Welcome, everyone. It's the fourth community input meeting for values and vision for the Nesquin Community Plan. So it's May 4th. Here we are at the Nesquin Beach Golf Club and online at Zoom.
So may the 4th be with you too.
May the 4th be with you, yes. For those of you on Zoom, please write a message on the chat to let us know.
Actually, just speak up because we're probably gonna miss it if you write in the chat. So,
Yeah.
but actually, Lynn, can you do the chat?
So can I do, let me just try right now.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, why is this not working? I can't,
Can't see the chat.
there we go. Is this,
Here, let me put something in the chat and then you will see it.
I can see the chat.
Okay,
Okay, good. If you could just monitor that
yeah,
and
so,
let us know.
so Lynn will be in charge of speaking up and saying, hey, someone in the chat would like to speak and at an appropriate moment.
okay,
Good, Lynn? Okay.
yep.
All right, thank you very much. So after the meeting on Thursday, a new draft vision of value statement was created based on the comments that have been submitted to date. So the three previous meetings have all accumulated comments and our efforts to integrate those into the current draft. This is a draft work in process to see if it makes more sense in the document we were working on Thursday. The new document relates to the statements in the May 2nd discussion and prior comments. The May 4th document is numbered 1 to 4 with letters indicating subsections. So you'll see we're doing it. Taking notes from the bylaws committee, and we're doing slide by slide. We'll show you the information and then the categorical thing that comes up. Oh, well, how am I just going? We just need to keep going with this because the explanation is complicated. But the document for May 2nd is annotated with numbers that correspond to the new statements in the May 4th document. So we will go through the document section by section, and the first one is community character.
Okay.
Before we start, can we have the introductions, please?
Oh, yeah.
Sure, okay. So, Dave, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure, Dave Bennett, Nesquin.
Kathy Bennett, Nestlin. Susan Schauber, Nestlin. Jeannie Ulrich, Nestlin.
Roger?
Mike Boyle, Nestlin. Matt Gill, Nestlin.
Jeremy Blum, Nestlin.
Anyone not Nesquin? Okay.
Guy Seifert.
Gary McLean,
Liz
Nesquin.
And Guy is on the community plan committee.
I'm on the community plan.
So,
Okay, Lori
Lori, go back. I'm on the planning committee and I'm from Nestlin too.
and Randall Cook and on the planning committee, steering committee. And
This is
Sarah Ashley. What? Yeah.
Oh, Tom Syke also on the steering committee.
Yes, he's on the committee as well.
And so is Lynn Saxon.
And so is Lynn Saxon.
Who else
Okay,
is on?
we want to have the Zoom introductions?
Yeah.
Please.
Nancy
Candace?
Mandel,
Okay,
NCAC member.
okay,
Carol Hook, Nesquin.
Candace Miller, Nestlin.
thank you.
Tom Perhodich.
Okay, Harvey,
Harvey Rubenstein, Nesquin.
thank you.
Let's see.
That's it.
Well, we have Lynn McClellan.
It says
McClanahan.
last on the
Yeah.
last.
Yeah. Tricia Playas, Barbara Gordon, Tarumi.
So Jeff,
Yeah. Yes.
we have two people saying that they have lost audio on Zoom. Now, I have not lost audio, but apparently some people have. Lynn McClenahan has.
So if it's just a few people and not everyone, that is very unfortunate, but we can't do anything about that because it's probably.
Got it.
So,
Okay, lots of people are now weighing in that they do have it, so good.
Okay,
Some had to restart Zoom to get.
Yeah, you have
on.
to if they restart it, let's find that correction.
okay. All right, I hope everyone's on board now, can hear
and by the way, I'm Jeff Weitzel, Secretary
I'm
at
sorry.
NCAC,
oh, there you go.
and that is Sarah
Oh, that's
Absher.
good.
Morning, everyone. Saint Sarah.
And we just got Steve Jones through the door and
Kathy Swanson.
Kathy Swanson. All right, thank y'all. Please sign in. So the first slide,
Okay. I just need to find my,
I want to go down to number 4.
and let's talk a little bit about how we're gonna do this. I think, I should edit this, like take notes so that people can see that in real time. It's probably gonna be cutting and pasting like slides and things like that and rearranging things.
But not, this is an overdone, so wait
Okay.
till we get to the one by one.
Okay, sure.
so we're gonna show you the number one, we've got 1 through 4 and then the subcategories. And so we're beginning with community character. And if you can read it on the screen, that's great. If you have it in hand, because that was available, but
Post on the web.
Yes.
okay, so it is posted on the web if you want to look at that, but I don't know how you do that and you attend the meeting. That sounds complicated.
Yeah, and now that I'm in the middle of screen sharing, I probably don't wanna run off and.
Yeah. Let's just note, we'll note the observations and we'll edit after the meeting. Let's just go through and just see how,
But how about this? If you want to look at your own copy of this document, there are links in the calendar entry on the NCAC website for this meeting. So if you look at the NCAC homepage, go to the calendar, like scroll down to the calendar, look at May 4th. There's a link to this meeting, and on that, there's links to these documents on that page. So,
okay, so you can see those either during the meeting or after. But let's go through these. So should I read all these things?
Yes.
Okay, so community character, A, relaxed beach atmosphere. NCAC embodies a relaxed beach atmosphere reflected in its homes, streets, public spaces, and especially the cherished beach and access points. B, village setting with thoughtful development. NCAC maintains a village feel with a focus on residential properties, limited commercial activity, and design guidelines that respect the community's character. C, diverse, inclusive, and volunteer-driven. NCAC is a community where neighbors help neighbors and all are welcomed with respect. NCAC values its volunteers and supports strong community organizations. So now we'll go through each of these items and we'll share with you which previous documents they came from, so you understand how these got melded into the 4 numbered subjects. So if we go to the next slide. So the relaxed beach atmosphere one comes from both the current value that is on the community plan at this time and the proposed revision. So the original one said NCAC citizens want NCAC to be a place where quiet natural beach atmosphere is found in individually owned properties as well as along streets and on public property. Kind of makes sense. Proposed revision, NCAC community members want NCAC to be a place where a relaxed beach experience is reflected in individually owned properties as well as along the streets and on public property, including the beach and beach accesses. So these got fused. And there's that typo at the end of the first one, but that's okay.
So do we just wanna,
Yeah, you just can eliminate that if that's easy to do.
this,
Okay, so. Why did you remove the quiet description? So we removed the quiet description, I guess that was kind of a debatable item, and it could go back in there, I have no problem. With that, and any other opinions on quiet?
Subjective. It can be pretty subjective.
Well, that was the comment was, well, it's not quiet when the summer when I'm here, you know, kind of a thing, it's like, well. Dominantly, if you walk around, there's not a lot of industrial sound, or it's more like birds and dogs barking, but, okay, we'll note that about the quiet. Should admit part of our process? Where, how this got synthesized?
I think so.
So, you know, at the last meeting, it's a sidebar here, the last meeting near the end, because it was so complicated. Someone just suggested, well, why don't you just give it to AI? So Jeff submitted to AI and these 4 points and their subcategories for what it came up with.
And they were darn good.
From our part, so we gave them the document we brought to the last meeting, which
Which
was
is here.
which-
document they have.
which is right here, and we're gonna show you, this is where that document turned into that. We're gonna give you all the comments that turned into these summaries. And then you can let us know, like Carol just did, if we missed something or if something should go back in. So this is our reckoning between our homework and the synopsis, the book report that was given. So,
And we're interested in how you feel about the statements, like not necessarily word by word, but does the statement overall, does it feel like it's in the right ballpark? Or is it off?
Like if you've got a top 10 things you want to say about Nesquik, it's this one.
Yeah.
And the reason why these statements are important, I mean, they're not just flower on the top. But, flowers on the top, but they're each gonna lead to more specific actions as we go down. So the committee, and as the plan does, take each of these vision and values and starts thinking about what things can we really change or maybe not change, but so it'll feed the rest of the document. That's why we had to take the time on
Right.
this.
we have to start with the vision and the values in order, because they drive and they are what the implementing ordinance is referred to in order to be validated. Okay, let's try the next slide. So. This is 1B. Community character. Village setting with thoughtful development. Nesquin maintains a village feel, excuse me, with a focus on residential properties, limited commercial activity, and design guidelines that respect the community's character. These came from these two other, well, a current value, which is Nesquin citizens want Nesquin to be a village predominantly made up of private residences with minimum of commercial activity and a respect for appropriate construction guidelines. Through comments and meetings, we came up with a revision. Nesquin community members want Nesquin to be a village setting predominantly made up of private residences, the minimum of commercial activity and a respect for appropriate design guidelines, which consider the character of the surrounding homes and immediate community. So, what's your take on whether 1B speaks to the items below or in general feels good?
Is there any way to address future respect for appropriate guidelines? Because it seems, especially in this village, I mean, South Beach has two totally different neighborhoods. The ground and all the McMansions up above, but the stuff in the village, the new buildings in the village, essentially the train has left the station with that, with respect for appropriate guidelines for your neighbors. And if we could do something to address future construction.
Well, that's what this
Yeah,
does.
yeah, I think that's entirely the goal.
So if that's not fulfilling what you think it should say, what would it say?
So Fran, may I?
Sure,
Okay, so I think how this was addressed initially through your implementing ordinances, you have a unique way to measure building heights, right? Because Nesco measures building heights differently than anywhere else in the county. You have a 70% lot coverage maximum. You have a driveway connection width standard, which is also unique to Nesco. So I think that's how those character and guidelines were initially intended to be, this vision and value was intended to be upheld through ordinance. So when we get to that part, when we look at those development standards, I think we revisit this and we talk about, did we make it?
right,
I
so,
understand, I remember you were talking about that on a previous meeting. I just brought up at that time, though, that many of the newer constructions were not regulated, even though that 70-30 was a guideline.
It actually is, I require it in the math on every site plan. So I actually looked at those, so I can tell you that is something that is required. So it may not be enough, is what my point is. It may not have acted as intended.
No, it wasn't. I mean, you can-
I see what they're talking about. The setback things, those aren't guidelines, those are requirements.
Right.
I don't know how you could, and I've worked in environments where I've worked in cities where they had an old town. And there was design guidelines, it said, you can paint your structure these colors. It has to have this architecture. I don't know how you would ever even start that here. I mean, even across the street from me on Forest Grove, they just remodeled the house, it looks awesome. But if you look at the place next to it, that one was built in 1960, and it still looks like it was built in 1960. How would you ever create a construction or design guideline that would apply in here? Sure, if you want to go up on where they're building new construction and start and set a standard there, then that's one thing, but how would you do it in the village? How would you do it here if somebody wanted to completely remodel their home? What would be the design guidelines? So my thought is we should maybe steer away from design guidelines because I don't know how.
they're not applicable.
Yeah, how you do it.
Or, because remember the language before was construction guidelines, and then
That's
I think,
different.
yeah,
That's,
so,
there.
and I think Rand tried to, like, came up, was that you who came up with design guidelines?
Yeah, because
Okay.
the other ones are already in place and they're the law, you can't really get around it.
So maybe design is the wrong word, and we don't want to wordsmith too much, but that's a really good point that, like, that design maybe not what we're trying to get at, but maybe we want to say what we are trying to get at.
Right, it's more aspirational and maybe it doesn't work because we don't have the law behind us. But, and probably not everyone who's gonna build a house here is gonna read these, although it would seem like that would be a really good thing to do. To understand that the character of the village and architecture, people consider that and would like people to consider that. But there's no thumb on them to make them do any of this. But it does fulfill an aspirational element of this, which is we would like to see the village more fit togetger rather than a skyscraper in the middle of it. So
Yeah.
it's aspirational, it's
But I think the
not the law.
construction standards, like Sarah's talking about, would address that. I mean, okay, I want to build a 12-story house. No, I can't.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
well, we could,
I mean, in some cases, like, because I've been coming to the golf course, there's that brand new house. I don't know if here's owns that house.
Oh, the one that's up the street here?
On, what did I turn down? Amity.
Yeah.
That house does not fit the constructional, the guidelines of the village.
Excuse me, this is Tom Perhodich. Both for the record and for those of us that are on Zoom, could people, when they speak, give their name? There's a lot.
He requested that people announce who they are before they start talking.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
people
Yeah.
don't know.
sure, that's great, thank you.
Thanks.
Um,
Susan stated it.
I didn't get all of that, but
I think he said.
to what Sarah was speaking about is Joni. I was mainly concerned with, I mean, I know that people's different designs are completely, they run the gamut here. I was speaking mainly about the 70-30 ratio, because you can drive around to every new home here in the core. And I dare say most all of them don't adhere to that. I don't know whether anybody came to slap an ordinance on them. I know they didn't on my block. There was one house that maintained that, another one that's been here for over a decade, brand new, huge. And as I think I brought up in an earlier meeting, they made a deck out of their 30%, which is not the same.
Okay, so,
That's all.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to regulate their aesthetic. I was trying.
obey the
70-30
law.
has to do with, it's the same as the setback regulation.
okay,
When we get to that point
Yeah.
in the process, I will do a demonstration and bring some site plans and explain how we actually calculate that.
Okay,
process, and we can talk about if it's still relevant or not.
Okay,
Roger,
Yeah, this is Roger McClellan. I kind of take issue with the word village. It's my understanding that the new community development plan is for the official Nesquin community boundary and only for that boundary. Vast majority of us are not in the village who are within that boundary. And I think referring to the Nesquin community as a village is totally wrong. That's in my opinion. Because many of us are not only not in the village, we have very separate interests from the village. Some of us don't want to be in the village because we just have very different interests. If you live in the hills of Nesquin, or if you live in Sahalee Shores, or even if you live on the ridge where I do, we do not have the interests of a village. We do not have the density. We have far different interests than people do that live in the actual village. So I take issue with using the term village.
so what about neighborhood?
Or community.
community.
Well,
It is the community, this is not right, Sarah, that it is the Nesquin community boundary that this community development plan is being established for.
Correct. And what you could say, and because I agree, I was thinking about that actually on the way down here, instead of village, perhaps it is a community that includes various areas, and that's where then you weave in the village and you recognize South Beach and Sahalee and, the different areas to define rather, instead of using the word village as all encompassing, it's community. And then you describe how that community is made up of various neighborhoods. And then you can also honor the village as within this area of Nesquin, but.
Yeah, I mean, if I had my way, I think that the Nesquin community plan should be just the village. I mean, from South Beach to North Beach, because I think that interest is so much different than the rest of the county. And especially like Hills of Nesquin, they have their own homeowners association, as does Sahalee Shores. I hardly ever see anyone involved from Sahalee Shores. That's a large number of people that are being involved with this community development plan, and their interests are just totally different. So I mean, I would love to see more different CACs rather than so encompassing of different areas.
So maybe, so I want to throw this out here for a response. Maybe rather than under community character, rather than saying village feel, we want to say that Nesquin is a community with many different neighborhoods that each have their own character, and we're all part of one community, or like something of that nature. Like, what do people think
I
about
think that's
that?
more fitting, and
Yeah.
Roger hit the nail on the head. Even South Beach is a different feel. They don't have the density issue that they have here in the village.
okay, good input and good clarification, Roger, thank you. Any other responses to this particular community character Okay, let's go to 3. 1C, excuse me. 1C, diverse, inclusive, and volunteer driven. Nescoin is a community where neighbors help neighbors and welcomes all with respect, values its volunteers, and supports strong community organization. We did do a rewrite on that sentence, but maybe it's in the one below. Anyway, Nescoin community members want Nescoin to be a community that demonstrates a respect for diversity, equity, and inclusion, welcoming people to visit and live here. Nescoin community members want Nescoin to be a community that supports and appreciates its many volunteers, especially emergency service volunteers, and participates in Nescoin's effective community organizations. So does the top statement reflect the comments in the section below? And
And do you like it?
what else do you think about it, whether it fits character of the community?
I like it's more specific,
That's Cat Northern.
not Cat North. I like it's more specific,
The new one is more specific.
that, yeah, the one in red, right?
Yeah.
The one in this is the one that we want to talk about.
1C
This
is,
one is the one you and
Yeah.
the others are past.
Oh, I see, I see,
Okay.
it's.
the top one is what
So,
we're
so,
going.
so,
as-
so basically, Ran and Lori kind of wrote this down, and this is a lot of words, and then Google made it this, which is a little bit more concise.
Right, so how do you feel about the top statement reflecting the bottom statements? And in general, how do you feel about this statement as it stands? Yes,
No.
thumbs up,
Thumbs up.
okay.
And see, and there's some, let's check the chat. Candace likes the top statement.
Okay,
It does the job, it's succinct.
okay.
This is Cat.
Oh, and from before, Carol Hope thought residential village description was very important, so.
Oh, from the previous one, yeah, okay, thank
The
you.
only thing I would like to add in the blue is a residential community.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I mean, I just want the emphasis to be on residential.
Well, and what do other people think about that?
I second that.
Yeah, that kind of fits the,
I think it fits, I mean, if you think of a resident, this is Mike Well, a definition of or when you think of a residential community, it also does generally include some small businesses that are incorporated as part of the community.
the mix,
So,
yeah. Okay, great, that was good input.
I guess
Yeah.
I have a question on that. This is Nancy Vandell. What does adding residential mean? Are you saying that it's a community for people who live there? Or is it, it's a community that's more residential than business oriented? Because I think I'm not sure that it adds value in terms of, I think it could be more divisive for people because it is a community that includes people who are residents and people who have other kinds of property.
What I meant, I was just referring, this is Kat responding, Nancy, is that
Thank you.
we're primarily an R1 community. We're not a multifamily, high density, highly commercial zoned community.
Well, I think Kat said it right. This is Matt Gill. I think Kat said it right there. Primarily residential. Might be the right word.
This one is primarily a residential. Are we getting that?
Are we splitting hairs?
So this is Lori, is that something to define as we get more specific? This is supposed to be kind of an overall statement and then we get more specific as we put the kind of goals and ordinances and stuff? Is it? I'm just throwing it out there. Is it now the time to get specific like that, or is it in the more detailed subcategories?
Right, when we get to ordinances and stuff like that.
I mean,
Well,
go ahead, Sarah.
So I would like that word, let's leave it because I think it's relevant, and I think we need to work later on to Lori's point. To talk about maybe a little bit more what that means, because it means different things to different people. But the other thing, just maybe for future homework, because we all love future homework, right? In the community character section, going back to the conversation we just had about village and to Roger's point, maybe this is where we insert and engage the HOAs to help us then in the section tease out where the village is and capture some of those broader statement community characters or the community of each of those various areas. And it might be a way to get Lexa Holly to engage, at least in this part, is to say we'd like to include a statement about your part of our community, and see if they would like to write something in there. I don't know, it may not fit here or somewhere else, but I was just thinking about that as we were talking about community character. And leaving the word village, or leaving it in a certain area.
So maybe we leave this in for now and then deal with it as we go along and see what kind of push and pull we get on it.
Yeah, definitely, we're not finalizing words here.
No, we're just trying.
But residential is an important input, so we
Right.
want to capture that, yeah. So-
Well, I mean, I just want to speak to my comment because I'm the one who said it. I think you're a resident here, no matter how many months of the year or weeks of the year you live here. The point is that the houses are residents.
Right.
They're not, I mean, we already have condos, that's great. They're also residences. You know, we also have multifamily housing. Those are also residences. You know, we have a section, we have sections that are possibly in the future could be zoned commercial. You know, as you go up and down the community plan, not necessarily, I don't think there's a lot of land available in.
We have
The-
farms.
Yeah, so, I mean, so I mean, certainly, and who said it, that so commercial development, like, is often part of a community.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, you know, so, you know, I didn't mean to say that you have to be a full-time resident. I meant that, that kind of means that it's not our wish that you buy a property in Nesco and tear down the house and build a sixplex. I mean, that's kind of what that means to me, that it's.
Well, but that's still residential, like,
Yeah.
we could be all apartment buildings and be residential. So what residential means is like, no McDonald's, no motels, so.
Well, I think I just like the R, aren't we R1?
Yes, no, you have to say the several different zones.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
The middle housing will go in the R1 zone.
Right.
Right, so when we get to that part. So I think, you know, again, just to keep, Kat, thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's a relevant word. I think we just figure out how to use that word as we continue through the process. So highlighting it, I think is a good idea.
Okay. All right, thank you. Let's try.
This is Bill Miller. I'd like to just note that we're not all R1. There are commercially zoned areas.
Right.
The golf course, I have a particular interest in. So I think there's two issues. One is residential versus commercial, and the other that's come up in other meetings, part-time residents versus full-time residents. And there's a lot of push and pull there. And even though the proposer of the word wasn't thinking of a difference there, other people will see a difference.
Okay. So we'll keep our eye on this word and see what input we keep getting and see whether it stays in or maybe another word works better that we haven't figured out yet. Okay, I think we've made it to 2.
Okay. Which, no, this is C, this is our, oh, I see what you mean, 2, we're on natural
Yes,
environment.
Natural environment. So, environmental stewardship. Nesco cherishes its natural setting and recreational opportunities, actively protecting the health and beauty of its environment and wildlife. So that is a summary of these other earlier inputs. So the current value that speaks to this is Nesco citizens want Nesco to be a place where the environment and beauty of Nesco's natural setting is prized. It got revised to say Nesco community members want Nescoin to be a place where the natural resources and beauty of Nescoin's environment are healthy, prized, and protected. And also a new proposed value, Nescoin community members want Nescoin to be a community that respects, protects all kinds of natural wildlife and fauna. Kind of wildlife and fauna, aren't they? Those mean.
We're not doing that anymore.
Okay, okay, I won't get hung up on the one without using. Okay, so how well do those synthesize in 2A?
And this is the value you want.
Steve Jones, I want, you know, there's someplace in here where we say protect the night sky. That's part of the environment, the Milky Way, the stars and what have you. I would like to see someplace for that.
And migrating birds.
And migrating.
But, so every time we've done this, environment has popped up. Everyone really cares about the environment. But that means so many different things, like the AI just condensed everything we said down to one sentence. And my feeling is that I've heard so much about what people care about the environment that maybe we need to broaden this out and say more specific things about what we want to protect. Because some people mean that like it's pretty and there's trees, and some people mean that we live with bears and elk, and some people mean yeah, that our water, like that our water source. So there's a lot going on here. And
Such as, could we
Yeah.
add such as? Or is that too?
I mean, today we're taking notes, so we like. We've heard a lot about the environment, and if anyone wants to say, you know, this is my particular thing about the environment that I care about, that I would like to see reflected in the values, specifically called out. This is your time to do that.
So in this, and see, it's protecting the health and beauty of its environment and wildlife. So that would include potentially implementing ordinances about dark skies or reflecting lights down as an ordinance.
Yeah.
So this is the value that would be, well, we have yet to create the value.
And that would lead to an ordinance perhaps.
Correct. And so when we get to ordinances, we can say, don't forget that dark sky thing that was so important. So, any other responses to this as a statement?
I think this is Guy, we can't forget that there are some tensions between the natural environment and the way we live here. And there, you know, for instance, I'll give it for instance, Nescoin 2 years ago started working on a beaver plan for the community. There was a lot of very different opinions about beavers. There are people where if we went over towards the art gallery and other places that are being flooded because of beaver activity. It's, and I'm not proposing any kind of statement or anything. I'm just saying that we can't forget that there is some tensions as to where wildlife, you know, natural resources and people living occur. And we just have to recognize that as we go through this document.
And in a perfect world, if we did our job exactly right, our value statement, like Michael Schlichting could look at that value statement and go, okay, this is what Nescoin feels about how my interests and the interests of the beavers should be like where they intersect. And that's a high bar. We probably won't quite get that, but that's what we're going for, right?
Yeah, and it's not just Michael, it's like, you know, the person, I mean, the Taves who own that 31 acres, they get flooded in different ways. Hawk Creek has been turned around because of the activity of beavers.
Or it's South Beach too, beavers and flooding.
Well, golf course.
Yeah.
A lot of beaver work.
There are also bear and deer that roam the village.
And cougar.
Right, so we heard from that very loud and clear in the earlier meetings about all these issues have been very much discussed, and so this is the point that addresses those things. And
right.
So there'll be more opportunity to act on those when we're talking about how the ordinances apply. And so if this kind of is enough of a capsule to unleash those later discussions, we'll move forward. Okay. So let's go, that's the,
And,
that one encompasses all previous discussions that we've had.
but, and I'm gonna try and keep up with the comments, so
Okay.
Tricia Playas said yes to include dark sky initiatives, preserve quiet beach areas. Oh, you can't see that, okay, interesting,
we can't.
okay.
I can try to throw the chat up there, but it might make this screen.
Yeah, it'll probably be hard to
You
see.
can just read them.
So, but I like, when I'm sharing my screen, I have to actively look at the chat, and there's a lot going on, so sometimes I miss it.
We also lost all the pictures of the people.
Yes, because of the share screen.
Oh,
Ah, okay, let's go for 3. Thank you, Mark. 3, quality of life. This is a big one. Strong utilities for community needs. NESCO provides reliable and high-quality utility services to support a thriving community spaces for connection. NESCO offers safe and enjoyable spaces where friends, families, and neighbors can play, socialize, and connect. Diverse housing opportunities. NESCO supports a variety of housing options to meet the needs of a diverse population. Well, those are 3 big points on the quality of life. So let's go to the specific ones. Next slide, please. So strong utilities for community needs. NESCO provides reliable and high quality utility services to support a thriving community. So these came from a current value, which stated a few things in its original form. A place where safety, NESCO citizens want NESCO to be a place where safety, adequate utility services, and essential pedestrian street areas are priorities. We altered that in our revision to say NESCO community members want NESCO to be a place where resilient, effective utility services provide dependable quality services to the community. And NESCO community members want NESCO to be a community that implements strategies to create resilient utilities designed to survive natural disasters. So those, there's no mention of disasters up in the top.
Yeah, I think we have some work here on.
Yeah. So initial responses to the integrated form, and what else do you think might be essential there?
Well, this is I think you captured it in that succinct statement. I'm a little disappointed that you didn't include pedestrian streets.
that's in another section.
Another section,
It
okay.
just doesn't fit with utilities.
That didn't fit with utilities, okay,
Right.
I concur with that. And I think that, I mean, you almost need to include the water and sanitary district on this, so.
Well, this is,
But I think it captures the, as you said, high bar.
Yes. Candace raised her hand.
Yeah, I like the statement you had at the bottom where it says, the utilities need to support for survive natural disasters. I think we need to have that in there because overwater usage can be a detriment to us in the summer when it's super dry and then we have a fire and we don't have enough water. So I think we need to add something about natural disasters or fire emergencies or something like that into the top statement.
Any other thoughts on that theme?
I get the point, but I'm trying to keep rereading the last portion of the statement and thinking, does it kind of incorporate that in there already with the high quality utility services? That's what you're gonna get. If you have high quality utility services, you're going to have resilient water supply, so forth for disasters, but.
So I'm personally with Candace, that to me, like, something we care about, that we're at risk for fire, we care about that we're at risk for tsunami, we care about that our watershed is pretty small and various things can happen to that. And when we say resilient, like we mean something pretty specific, that that there's a lot of things that we feel vulnerable about, and we want, like, our value is that we want to feel safe.
Right.
Specifically with regard to the, like, water especially, and our natural
I
environment.
get that. I spent 40 years in the fire service. I definitely understand the water supply.
I want to.
Are we at risk here for water, for fighting a fire?
And
Yeah, I mean, in the summertime when it gets dry here, I think that, I think people underestimate the potential. You know, you have different types of fuels, they call 1 hour, 10 hour, 100 hour, 1,000 hour fuels. Small dead grasses, you know, few hours of dryness, you have conditions like we had here on Labor Day in 2020, and oh yeah, fire could run through this village and come out of the hills and run through the village. So wouldn't be the first time I've stood on the beach and fought fire, so it's possible. I mean, likelihood remote, but the bigger risk is having a structural fire in here, and as we've talked about with spacing and the crowding here we have in the village, which we like. The downside is you have a windy day, it doesn't matter. I mean, even if it's been raining like this, you have a structural fire that becomes fully involved and you have a wind pushing it, it could easily spread to adjacent structures.
You get embers, right?
Yeah,
Flying
yeah.
embers.
And you do have still combustible roofs, combustible siding. I mean, the village is definitely under the right conditions, prime for you bring the whole thing down, really, right condition.
Well, the other piece of that is vegetation management, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Alex,
Alex, is this not all addressed in 4B and C?
That's right.
right, I think there are
Yeah.
things down the line.
Yes.
That's why I thought this is sufficient.
This is all fully addressed in the next section.
Okay, so let's keep going.
On track.
I still have my eye on resilient utilities designed to survive natural disasters. That's something that I want to see clearly somewhere, so we'll keep our eye on it. Okay. Community spaces for connection. Nesquin offers safe and enjoyable spaces where friends, families, and neighbors can play, socialize, and connect. So those came out of these, the current value with a revision just being the community members want Nesquin to be. So the original was a place that has community spirit and friendly atmosphere, and yet also has respect for individual privacy. The proposed revision was Nesquin, community members want Nesquin to be a place where safety is a priority, including children playing. And a new proposed value, Nesquin community members want Nesquin to be a community where people socialize and recreate with civility, where friends and family flourish. Children come to play outside and people walk the beach, bike, hike the hills, play golf, and I can't see it anymore.
It's on your paper.
Oh, I'm sorry. Play outside and enjoy water sports in a setting safe enough for children to run rampant. So.
That's right.
Feral. It got Googled into the top phrase, so is that working? Or do we want to preserve rampant running children? Does that summarize it? In an effective way?
we're taking silence as assent.
Yes,
Yeah.
hey, move to 3C. Oh, Roger.
I'd like to say something about the involvement of the visitors as well.
We do have that in a specific spot, so yeah. But we'll note that for 3B if it doesn't get covered in the next few minutes. So let's go with 3C. Quality of life, diverse housing opportunities. Nesquin supports a variety of housing options to meet the needs of a diverse audience population. Nesquin, the new proposed value was Nescoin community members want Nescoin to be a community that has diverse forms of housing, including workforce, long and short-term rentals, and housing for all ages. And we're noting here that we will have a presentation about Senate Bill, I think, 406. Senate Bill, yeah, sorry, typo there. Senate Bill 406 for language from Sarah later. As we get towards implementing ordinances, we're gonna get a whole overview about housing. So, as an encapsulated statement, does that function for you for now as a summary? That seem reasonable?
So Rand,
Yeah, Lynn?
the only thing I just want to underscore here, and I know Sarah's on the call and can be articulate on this. I'm not sure everyone has read Senate Bill 406 recently, or for some people, maybe they haven't read it at all. But I just want to underscore that this will play a major, as you said, this will have a major impact on the new proposed value as it's currently written.
So the ultimate ordinances that we have here in Nescoin are going to be influenced by Senate Bill 406. I think for our value statement, we can say what our values are. We don't have to like say something about Senate Bill 406. Salem did that for us. So
we'll hear more about this.
This says, this is Kat, this says a variety of housing options to meet the needs of a diverse population. And there will be language from the state that Sarah will address. That will direct, changes.
Articulate.
Right, articulate changes, but I mean, we're saying that we value a variety of housing options and we want to meet the needs of a diverse population.
I think that's the job.
yeah,
I
I think it's
actually really like it because I think it does support that broad brush stroke of what we're looking at, and it includes age, it includes type of housing.
Right, okay, that worked.
I think it's great.
This is Dave. Quick comment.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question? So
who's speaking, please?
This is Bill Miller. Is the idea
you.
that there would be ordinances that would support this? So there would be new zoning for senior housing, for instance, or new zoning for affordable housing, new zoning for mini dwellings behind? Is that the idea, to eventually come up with ordinances rather than just having the market dictate the housing?
Thank you, Bill. That's a great question. So I don't anticipate any new zoning ordinances or zoning districts. What we'll do is we'll incorporate those up to 4 dwelling units in the zones that already exist. So it doesn't touch on creating affordable or workforce housing zones or zones for senior housing. It's focused on just the housing type, which is up to 4 units, which we can easily fold into the zoning districts that already exist for us. Unless you want to do something else, but that's what our obligation is.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Bill?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
This is Nancy. Could I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So I like the word support in the original thing. I'm wondering if we could say a community that supports diverse forms of housing. Otherwise, I like it a lot.
the supports is the new, not the original.
Oh,
Yeah, that's
okay,
the-
I'm
that's the
confused.
summary.
This is some confused,
What's confusing about?
the word is new here, like, which, so,
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a
Yeah.
leftover from the past meeting. So we'll take new out.
yeah, we'll just take that out.
The blue ones at the top, well, maybe they're not blue on your copy if you have a hard copy. But 3C, quality of life, diverse housing opportunities, that's the new one that we're proposing. It is a synthesis of the other ones.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna
Oh,
restate
okay.
for
Sorry, Nancy.
to try and be as clear as possible. The bottom parts of these slides are the stuff that was in the old value statement, stuff that Rand and Lori came up with in the past couple of weeks based on our previous sessions. And then we produced the top, like the 3 and the C.
The blue.
Yeah, the blue, if you have the screen as a synthesis of that. So currently, like I don't want to say the working text, because that's not what it is. Just sort of like where we are now with a good expression that we're trying to test here and see if it captures what we're trying to say with the input of the community. It's the top part. So we're evaluating the top part. The part at the bottom is a reference from what we were working with to get the top part. So.
Okay, thank you for that, and sorry for my confusion. I like the top wording very much. so
Good, well,
thank
that's good news. That's good news, Nancy. Dave.
Hey, maybe a small item. I'm trying to understand or think through what we mean by diverse population. What population are we referring to, do you think? The people already here? Does that include visitors in the future? Workforce, folks who are not here now? So what population are we referring to, anything?
Well, it's probably leaves it open to economic diversity, racial, and, you know, I mean, when you talk diversity, it's really.
Older people of different races all live in the same houses, or they should.
Pardon me? Physical abilities, so we're saying that we're
Different.
here to provide housing options that speak to all the needs of those many diverse kinds of people in the population.
I think the vagueness is a asset, that like just if you're a different kind of person and a different kind of family or a different anything, like we want to people to be welcome.
Great.
Okay.
This is Liz. I agree. I love this. I'm curious, since we have Sarah here, do you have any advice? Like, is this amount of vagueness good? Is there any, should we get specific to support any future goals that we have in any area of within diversity?
I honestly really like it the way it is. I think diversity means different things to different people, but I think if we start getting too specific, you run the risk of leaving something out.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, kind of reversed our thing of trying to list a bunch of things, and he just said,
No.
it's a diverse kind of housing to meet the needs of a very varied population, right? So leave it there.
And just a little bit more on like process and wording. So part of what we're trying to do here is make sure we don't miss something that really needs to be called out. But so I think we don't want to exclude things unless we really want to exclude things. But if there are things, like if we decided, you know what, workforce housing deserves its own mention because that's so important. Like that's what we're trying to discover. But if diverse covers what we want to cover, then that's great.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was wondering about.
Yeah.
Like, would it be helpful to?
Yeah.
But I think when you do,
Then you leave that.
when you do the implementing ordinances, if it's called for to have something be specific, that's where it could take shape. Okay, 3D, three-dimensional value statement.
Great. I think we just go four.
We're to 4, we made it to
Yep.
4.
Four, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, no insurance. Perfect.
Number 4, safety and resilience. So A, safe and welcoming for all. There you go, Roger. Nesquin is a place where streets prioritize pedestrians, bikes, children, and pets, fostering a safe and friendly community for everyone. Prepared and resilient, Nesquin has realistic plans and resilient infrastructure to address natural disasters, ensuring the safety and well-being of its residents. C, sustainable water supply. Nesquin prioritizes a secure and sustainable supply of safe drinking water for its residents through careful management and planning. County collaboration, place where people can, where people create a workable collaboration with the county for the care of the infrastructure, natural environment, and public safety.
Okay, you ready?
We'll break it down here. So, safe and welcoming for all. Nesquin is a place where streets prioritize pedestrians, bikes, children's and pets, fostering a safe and friendly community for everyone. The current value states Nesquin citizens want Nesquin to be a place where safety, adequate utility services, and essential pedestrian streets are priority, and essential pedestrian street area priorities, whatever that.
I think it should be R.
Are priorities. Proposed revision was Nesquin community members want Nesquin to be a place where safety is a priority, streets are safe for all users, streets on which motorized vehicles are second in priority, sorry. Streets on which motorized vehicles are second in priority to pedestrians, bikes and wheelchairs, children playing. So the top statement is a synthesis of those two prior considerations. How's that work for you?
Good job.
I think it's nice, I mean, someone could argue maybe it's a little wordy, because I mean, a child walking down the street is still pedestrian, but I think it paints kind of a neat picture of the community. With adding all those little extra elements, and their pets, and, okay, if a person's walking a pet, you're not gonna run over the pet and leave the person.
Take them both, huh?
I think it does paint a nice picture of the community, you know,
Okay.
even though someone could argue that it's probably a little bit more wordy than it needs to be, but.
Well, given that we gave more words, it's got it down to these, so.
Yeah.
It felt that they were important enough, which, again, I remind you that AI did this. It took
Yeah.
our statements and it said, these are still important, which is
I think
interesting.
it's very fitting, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So this is Guy, I just want to go back to Roger's comment. I don't know if AI considered that there are multiple communities within
It did
the
not.
community boundary. And what a pedestrian street looks like here in
Neighborhoods?
the old village may look different in South Beach in terms of how they see their roads, and maybe different in South.
It's still a single lane.
Yeah.
This is Mike, and I thought about that, Roger's comment, when I was reading that, because I have relatives who live in South Beach, and we go over there and walk, and all of those same things apply over there that you think of when you're here. Just the streets may be a little bit narrower here than there, but they all apply.
Yeah, I live in South Beach and I walk and I think there's an STR with e-bikes in the garage, and they ride up and down the hills, so.
Go ahead, Roger.
That's good.
I think it's completely unnecessary because the potholes take care of the safety.
Well, we could put more potholes in.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
They're like speed bumps.
Okay, all right, let's go to 4B unless there's other. 4B, safety and resilience. Prepared and resilient, Nesquin has realistic plans and resilient infrastructure to address natural disasters, ensuring the safety and well-being of all its residents. Cross your fingers on that. Okay, so the current value in the community plan, I guess I put with revision because I put Nesquin community members want Nesquin to be a place where resilient and effective utility service provide dependable quality services to the community. And the recently proposed value, thank you for being so quick, Jeff. Nesquin community members want Nesquin to be a community which has emergency services that have realistic implementable plans to address the risks of fire, flood, and natural disasters that are predictable dangers for the community where fire hazards are minimized. Neighbors help neighbors to achieve these goals.
So this is the part we're actually kind of thinking about.
Right. Does that work as a synthesis?
Did I hear that it's I don't have it in front of it, natural disasters are predictable? Where was the term predictable?
Well, depends on what you would define as predictable.
Oh, they're
When are they gonna happen, or are they gonna happen?
They're statistically predictable.
Well,
So-
that's,
well, these are
that's
the-
not included, that's.
Yeah, that's the old ones.
Superseded,
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
So
says,
the new one again.
Guy, it says Nesquin has realistic plans and resilient infrastructure to address natural disasters, ensuring the safety and well-being of its residents. So it is definitely aspirational, but
So let's, and
one of our.
my focus, let's say is on water right now. And if the predictions about climate change continue, we're gonna have longer, hotter, drier summers. Our rain is gonna be more concentrated in the few months during the winter. That, in my mind, is not a natural disaster, unless you think of climate change as a natural disaster. But that is something that the water district has to think about and manage, because that means that during the prime times for demand, end of August, July, September will be our lowest flows. So, when we talk about resilient, I like resilient. I guess the term natural disaster is what, it's not always a natural disaster that's causing the issues.
Maybe we want to value specifically for fires and tsunami and things like that,
Well,
like in another value.
Those are natural disasters.
Yes, so.
I mean, guys, it says realistic plans. Right? It says realistic plans, so that's what the water district would be coming up with.
Right.
And was that Candace? I know Candace, you have your hand raised.
No, I think it was Carol.
You have to put, fires aren't natural disasters. It could be someone who actually set off a fire, or I just think you need to put fire hazards in there somewhere, I think, especially during the summer months. When we have a drought and it's drier. I mean, wasn't it last summer that Newport had to have rationing because they didn't have enough water during the summer? That's, so I think we need to have fire hazards or something in there.
Randy, this is Mike Boyle. You could add, if you added man-made and natural disasters, that would definitely lead.
Yeah. Okay, we will.
Human cause, yeah, thank you. That's a new term. We can't say man, because one man.
And Tom Prohodich raised his hand.
Okay, Tom Prohodich had his hand raised, and we'll get to Alex after that. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I was just gonna say that this takes care of the issue that was in the earlier, when we were talking about adding survive natural disasters. This language takes care of this and is better. I was thinking, I sort of like to address man-made and natural disasters, or I like address better than survive. In terms of wording, to address natural and man-made disasters, or to address natural disasters and changes, or something that takes into consideration Guy's point.
Okay. So we have a couple comments. Tom, we'll read Brenda's, but they go up and then they disappear, so like.
Okay, I can read them. Let's see.
Okay, there we go.
So, let's see. Okay, so Brenda suggested, I'm going back. Okay, so there's a bunch. So Carol said, I think we should add Nesquin residents want to have realistic plans or aspire to have realistic plans. Brenda suggested omitting natural so that we're just prepared for all disasters. And Tom Sipe said add to the statement of its residents, visitors, and businesses. So well-being of its residents, visitors, and businesses.
All residents, businesses, and.
Visitors.
Yeah.
Visitors, resident
Okay.
businesses and visitors.
Okay, and like, are you keeping up?
She's trying to, but we're hitting her pretty hard here.
One, I did, but in any of the, keep the chat, will I be able to go back to the chat?
You'll be able to go back to the chat,
Yeah.
and we'll have video.
So,
And then Brenda said it's about realistic, active, implementable, practiced preparedness. Otherwise, this is just words on a page.
well, it starts as words on a page, but that's what we have to go from to create implementing ordinances
Right.
that either address that, or we are stating what we aspire to be and have. But if you don't write it down as something that is ideal, then what do you have to shoot for? So, Mike?
Brandon, there's a really important word in it that's related to that, and that's realistic.
Yeah.
What's realistic is, what, we can't put an ambulance on every corner in here, we can't put a fire truck on every corner in here. So reality plays a huge part of this goal, I mean.
Yeah,
You can only do realistically what we can do.
What we can do.
right.
So that word is really, I really love that word is in there, because we can have pie in the sky dreams of what we want to do, but there's reality that someone's gotta pay for it eventually.
Right. Alex, did we ever get to you?
No.
Sorry.
I just, Alex, simply, I echo Brenda's point, just make a disaster, don't worry about the cause, human or natural, for God's sakes. And then residents, so the idea of addressing others in the community, I guess you could just end it by saying it's population. That might include visitors, businesses, residents, try to be one word all inclusive. And again, part of this, Rand, I think to be fair, especially with Sarah here, is that I don't know that this particular issue translates into ordinances per se. What it does is it translates into communicating our values with the water district and the sewer district.
Right.
And then would come up with how us achieve that goal.
Right, so by putting,
It's a good purpose.
yeah, by putting things together, we have something to refer to that says the will of our community is to achieve these things, so help us do that, because it's stated that we want this, so it's important for all of us to know these things.
Well, these are what tells us where we wanna take our community to.
Right, exactly.
So Randall, if I may, Alex, thank you so much for that. I would put in the parking lot, the residents, businesses and visitors. Because if we decide to use this document later on for some sort of grant, either from Visit Tillamook Coast to do some infrastructure work. We have this tsunami evacuation facilities improvement plan that we did a few years ago. We want to go for a grant to do some work or something like the emergency egress route. I agree with Alex, but holding that other piece of that language somewhere in this document could be very valuable when we go to look for funding or project support later.
And Liz, did you still have?
Yeah. Yeah, this is Liz. One thing, I don't know if it's come up in previous meetings, I missed a couple, but one barrier that comes to mind in terms of making it a realistic plan is the personnel that it takes to respond to the disasters. I'm thinking specifically of fire, since I know the most about that through my work with them, fire and EMS or paramedic response. That's very minimal right now because it relies on volunteers, and we have hardly anyone responding to calls in Nescoin.
Yeah, so if we state these things, we gotta find some people to fulfill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but stating them as a start, and let's see, and Lynn has her hand raised.
I really like the use of the words prepared and resilient here, because they are things that we can do. I mean, preparedness is something that there is a science to for disasters, including earthquakes. And resilient is a really great term. The only term that makes me uncomfortable, and I think we need to be really careful just from a moral standpoint, ensuring the safety is impossible. And when we hold that out there, when we live in a tsunami zone, I really think there's it's important to be aspirational, but it's important to keep at least one foot on the ground. And so I think we need to be very careful with language like that, which is beyond aspirational. It's not feasible. So if everyone's comfortable with it, I don't want to be the sour grapes, but ensuring the safety of people in Nescoin in a tsunami is beyond our capacity.
What about something like protecting the safety?
Or striving for the safety.
Or promoting.
Yeah.
Yep, promoting, any of those are good. Just ensuring is not feasible.
Okay, and we have a couple comments, and unfortunately, some of them are a little stale, so I'm not sure if we're gonna know it, because Candace said, I agree with Brenda and Tom, but she said that 5 minutes ago, so she was talking about the things Brenda was Brenda had two different things. I don't know which one Candace agreed with. And Tom was saying, had his comment about the businesses and visitors. And on that point, Bill Miller also chimed in and said, I would add businesses at the end, acknowledging that Sarah said that maybe we don't want to do that.
Just say population.
Yeah,
No, Sarah said we might want to do that because of grants.
Grants.
Yeah.
That we might want to say businesses.
okay,
Visitors and residents.
okay. And then Nancy said, I agree with Tom, but I don't know what she agreed with Tom about. So.
Okay, try and be specific if you
I-
agree with someone, if you can.
Sorry, I only saw one comment from Tom. It was the one about adding in residents, visitors, and businesses.
Oh, okay, all right.
I'll try to be more clear.
Or if you know how to reply to a specific comment, then we will know. And it will be
Okay, good
reported
point.
in
Thank you.
the transcript of the chat too, so.
Thanks.
Okay, we've noted a number of things to consider for the next iteration, so thank you very much for all that input. So for C. Safety.
Guy, this is you.
What?
This is for Guy.
Safety and resilience, sustainable water supply, and that's one prioritizes a secure and sustainable supply of safe drinking water for its residents through careful management and planning. We even included planning. So this, get rid of the new, the proposed value that this comes from is or was, Nesco community members want Nesco to be semicolon, a community that has a vital and resilient supply of safe drinking water for its population, sustained under a comprehensive management plan prioritizing safe drinking water. So it honed it down. Is that, other water board members have opinions?
Should, Candace Miller, should residents be replaced with community? Because it's very specific.
Say that again?
Should residents, the word residents in the first top statement be replaced with community? Because are you specifying just residents and not guests and visitors? I mean, maybe I'm being too specific,
No,
but.
I think that makes sense. How about I just change that?
And Bill Miller suggests the trio, the businesses, residents and visitors.
And then community is, gets it, yeah, it doesn't matter.
Community work? Change residents to community. Okay,
all right.
that embraces.
And then Brenda has her hand raised.
Yes, Brenda.
Hi, I can't resist the opportunity. Thank you for this. I agree with the statement. I just want to ask, or just for consideration, does management and planning also include investment? Because for this to happen, for it to be implementable, the community also needs to invest in its watershed. So just putting that there for thought.
I would think so. I mean, part of planning would be you're planning to invest in, or you're gonna, as part of that, you may identify that you need to invest in certain components.
Just think about the implementation of it. That's all I'm saying. What is the implementation? If it's included, then it's included. I just want to remind everyone of that. That's all. Thank you.
Sure. So it's a value, and of course that would apply. There was a question about what about the sanitary services? And so we have stated above in the utility section that our utilities.
Right.
So the utilities are the water and the sanitary services. So I think we have stated that, and this was specific to the water supply and the management, planning and investment in that. So
And Guy, do you think this value should specifically call out planning for climate change?
I don't think it needs to. I mean, I think that clearly the water district is considering the long range impacts of climate change. It has to, it's part of being responsible. And, you know, there are so many threats, both short-term and long-term. I mean, you know, we are a little quake and landslide short of having no water in Nescoin because of our stream being so small. And, you know, planning for that, looking at another water source to ensure with an E, that we would have water supply. Yeah, I don't think we need to call it out. I mean, I think it's all within the strategic plan, overall plan of the district. Brenda can also speak to that.
Okay. We good with this one at this point with the notes taken? Okay, let's try.
I had a
Oh.
comment in there.
Okay,
Sorry.
go back.
Sorry, Nancy. I was just suggesting if you go back a slide.
16.
I'm not sure that we need for its community, do we? I think it's implied.
That's going to prioritize the secure and sustainable supply of safe drinking water through careful management, planning, and investment. For its community, somewhat implied by the fact that it serves our community already, and that's all it functions to do.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We're not really focused on the word, like wordsmithing today, but I think that's a good, like, if you have a good idea, that's fine. And that makes sense to me, so I'm gonna do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's read that again, and does that work for everyone?
You know, it's, we kind of joined the water and sanitation together. And I'm not proposing to change here, but we're gonna remember they're very different. One depends on a natural resource.
Right.
And one is a system that is built within our community. Not even, and no one is, interestingly enough, talked about that it is not fully developed yet in our community. There's many areas that are within the sanitation district. They're not served by that district. And that affects the community, but water is unique. It's a natural resource.
Finite.
And it's fine, and we don't, you know, we can't go up and engineer more water. We can engineer more infrastructure for sanitation. So I just think we have to keep in mind that difference, and I'm not proposing that.
Yeah, I think having one value specifically for water makes a lot of sense for that reason.
Okay, so let's try 4D.
Or actually, we're onto okay, yeah.
So, safety and resilience. D, county collaboration. A place where people create a workable collaboration with the county for the care of the infrastructure, natural environment, and public safety. So, since we've heard so much about roads and creek and everything else that's problematic, I just, not sure people are aware of various ways that the county does provide support. And a lot of that has to do with the, Department of Public Works, working with individuals who have a project, and Chris will come down and talk to you whether he thinks he could provide the materials, if you provide the labor, like if you're doing, you're putting in so a recent case was where the breakers, I think it was the breakers, they're gonna they're gonna pave the streets that were gravel on either side of them. So the county said, well, if you do that, we'll provide the materials to do the street between those two streets. So when the paver comes, does the two streets and Breakers Boulevard, to join those two streets with new paving. So it's important that we not create the evil Department of Public Works, because if you collaborate and coordinate with them, you can get things done. So don't give up on them. And I think it may be aspirational, but it is a real world thing that you can work with the Public Works Department, especially if you're already doing a project and you have equipment on site. So I wanted to build, this was one that I've experienced and I'm not sure everyone is aware of. And I would really hope that we would have improved relationship with Public Works in working with, on specific projects.
This is Tom Perhodich. I would make it and public safety, health and welfare. Those three words are magic words in public administration.
So say that again, the three words are,
I would add, at the very end, I would add, and public safety and welfare.
Yeah, and I saw Sarah nodding, so I'm just putting it.
Yeah.
yeah,
The-
that was one of
So
the,
it's,
Go
so
ahead.
it could read care of the infrastructure, natural environment and public safety for the benefit of
the community.
community health, safety and welfare. I know it's kind of worried, but yeah, to Tom's point, he's right. Those are that's the magic phrase.
And we will wordsmith this later.
So health, welfare and safety, health, welfare and safety.
Okay,
Because safety is not just public safety, there's other pieces, there's other things that, as we talked about before, that relate to safety.
Yeah, and so when we speak of the creek, I've written Chris twice stating that people in the area felt like there was a safety hazard there that needed to be addressed. So if you include that every time you ask for something, it's kind of more of a mandate than just saying, come please help us.
Yeah.
So.
So we get cones.
Cones, magical cones.
It's out there.
Okay, does that stand up to your critique?
This is Nancy. Could I
Sure.
suggest, how about changing create a workable collaboration to just collaborate? I realize I'm editing again, but
Well,
a place where people collaborate with the county for the care of the blah, blah, blah.
Sure, sure. Okay, there we go. We honed it.
Thank you.
All right. So, that was, worked a lot better than Thursday night.
yeah, we're not done.
More slides of things that got left out that I wanted to see.
Oh,
wanted.
Okay,
There were two things that were part of current values that didn't get into this new version, and I just wanted people to comment about if you think that we should try to get those in there, or
next slide. Or is that just?
that's it.
Okay. So the current value is not,
Part of the,
part of that slide presentation, but the current value with revision is Nescoin community members want Nescoin to be a place that has a community spirit and friendly atmosphere, and yet also a respect for individual properties. Privacy. It's not on there. Individual privacy.
yeah, that's privacy is what it said.
So that's a revised current value. Do we want to continue to include that? Or do you feel it was embraced in other ones? I guess we'd have to do some research to find the other one that it could possibly fit under. But
You actually sent me this.
I-
This was, I think this was a method you sent me, so I wasn't sure what you were concerned about.
I don't know, I think it's in some of the other values.
Okay, then let's do the next slide. The next one has to do with children.
Running rampantly.
Oh, yeah, this one. Yeah, this one got left out.
Nescoin community members want Nescoin to be a place where children and their education are prized and the arts are encouraged. Yeah, I think where there was no controversial part of that, so it didn't get reviewed very much.
Yeah, so it
But-
could be added to the section about community character, I think is
Right, it'd be back up in quality,
quality of life.
quality of life, yeah.
Um,
So it would be a D in the 3 section.
so
But-
do people feel like it belongs in visions and values or later in kind of goals? Like, does anyone have an opinion
I
about it?
think it's already, this is Kat, I think it's already reflected in quality of life. Where friends, families, and neighbors can play, socialize, and connect.
So I want to just
Education in the arts.
refresh people's memories or for people who weren't here when we talked about this, and I think it was our first meeting. So there's a lot unpacked in it, or there's a lot of things that could be meant by this. And one is that, like Liz was talking about, that would we like Nescoin to be the kind of place where families with children, like Liz's family, live, and it's a thing, like where people, like families with children, live here full time and their kids go to school either at NBS or in Nestucca and whatnot. And then there's like Nescoin being a place for kids in the summer, like where it has camps or just the fact that people can run around and it's great. And there was a third one which I forgot, but there's a lot that could be meant. Like I think if we want to keep this, probably we want to try and say what we mean a little bit better.
Yeah, this is Matt Gill. I think it's important to include the part about a place where children and their education are provided. Because that's a really important thing if we want families to be here.
Well, we haven't mentioned the arts anywhere else. And it seems to be part of the character of the village, not only Michael's continuous operation for 40, 50 years or something, but many people here who that's important, the arts are important to. So I agree with Matt, education, and I believe the arts are an integral part of the character of the village. So that's just my opinion, but I would continue to, this already is a value in our community plan of view, whether we integrated it into something else or had it stand on its own. Any thoughts on that?
I would love to see this added back into the vision and values because I think it leads to a lot of future Christian goals and whatnot. And maybe we can even expand on it a little more. I was talking with Lori about this at the beginning of the meeting, and like one thing that comes to mind that's like not I have a 2-year-old. One thing that's like not ideal about our life with her right now is that there aren't many other kids. There's just a few in Nescoin, literally just a few. And so I'd love to see work into the goals, a way to like make Nescoin more of a place where families with young kids can live. We've only made it here because we have friends that have helped us with finding long-term rentals and friends that help us with taking care of our daughter while my husband and I work. And that's very lucky. I don't know if that arises for everybody, and so that would be awesome to have more families with young kids who like, then there's like helping each other out that can happen and like make it possible for them to actually like stay and not get kicked out after a year from their rental, and then they have to move to a totally different place because there's no other rental. That sort of thing can happen easily here. And then if there's more kids, then the school will thrive more. Right now, it's so tenuous with how few kids attend.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that would help the public school too, to have more enrollment.
I think real properties have the greatest impact on the dearth of family living here, because I know a number of us who moved here in the 80s was much more affordable. So it feeds back into what we were discussing here about different types of residents available, rentals, workforce housing, blah, 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 all of that stuff, because many of the workers here. I mean, it's like a low rent version of what happens in a place like Aspen, where kids are
yeah.
living 4 and 5 to a house 25 miles away on a dangerous mountain highway in the winter, and we don't want that to happen here. If we can find affordable housing for the talented artisans who work here. And they'll have families, hopefully.
Any other comments?
So there's a few things in the chat.
When you talk about prizing, this is Bill Miller again, when you talk about prizing education, are we talking about supporting a private school? Are we talking about being more supportive of the Cloverdale public school system? Are we talking about the bookmobile? Are we talking about having summer classes that Nesco sponsors? What is the education we're supporting here with this?
Yes, is the answer.
Yeah, and
All of
without
them.
here, we don't have to get that specific, but we
Right.
can think about those as like what outcomes and trying to reverse engineer what outcomes we want to make sure the value says the best thing to like best express what we really want. But
So maybe the question to me of wording would be, is prized the right word, or is it supported or highly valued, or prize seems a little
I think
bit.
there's a better word than
Yeah.
prize.
Yeah.
And we don't have to find that word today.
Right, but
But we can agree that
pointing
there's
that
no
out.
kid.
Yeah.
I think with that word found, this would be a lot
Our
stronger.
top priority.
We'll work on it.
Priority, yeah.
So we've just been talking mostly about making Nesco in a place where families with children find it a welcoming place to live and their kids have other kids to play with.
I like the word value. I know you don't want a wordsmith, but I like the word value. I mean,
Okay.
you know, obviously, I mean, I just, from personal experience, in the year 2000, we did not buy a house in Salishan because we felt that our 4 and 6-year-old would not be welcome there. We felt like they would be welcome in Nesco. And yes, there are too many times they left their bicycles and basketballs in the street, and Al gets faithfully brought them over to our house.
Yeah.
So,
That's the way it works.
but you know, I'm not sure he was thrilled, but he tolerated us for a while. But I mean, at least we were valued. You know, and when the search and rescue had to come take my boys off Proposal Rock, they didn't charge us.
But they
were
remember.
wild years. But my children, when we were here, and there were a lot more children then.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was more affordable.
Yes, exactly. That's the source of it. It's the real. That was what? That was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So they still don't charge to take people off.
They don't. They don't. I was so afraid.
No, I worked in the Coast Guard here before, and that's not there's no government mechanism that's part of what those guys do.
Right.
It's free.
I mean, the pilots are probably like, oh, yay, we get to do something.
Actually, crews enjoying.
Yeah.
That's why they do the work. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was you would know what this means. It was a high angle rescue.
Yeah.
And the volunteers couldn't do it.
Yeah, and the
So
Coast
the
Guard.
big guys had to come in.
Resource for it, yeah. They train to do it all the time, and there's no one better in the world at doing hoist rescue than the US Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Actually, other public agencies actually end up, oddly enough, when I was in charge of the helicopter program in Orange County, I sent one of our helicopters here to Astoria, to train. They have the Advanced Air Aviation Rescue Training Course here, based at Astoria. And helicopter crews come from all over the United States to go to that course.
Yeah, rescue people off the bar.
Yeah, they're really, really good. They're really good at it.
Well, thank you, everyone, for
Let's
this.
see, we have more comments.
Oh, more comments.
And I
Okay,
think-
sorry.
And I think we're not done with this, because what we've just been talking about is families with kids. And if that's what we mean, the value should say families with children, like, does that,
Yeah.
like this value does not communicate
Right.
that very
Yeah.
well. So,
families with children
Yeah.
and their education are valued. Their education and arts, how about their education and arts are valued?
And Tom's like said, as an overall description, early in the document, we can define Nesco community as residents, property owners, visitors, and businesses, okay? Which I guess is a general comment, so.
Okay.
Jeff, there were comments before that too.
Okay, so Barbara Gordon said, how about simply children be prized, leaving out their education? And Nancy, do you want to say what you think, but in your own words?
It's been a while, but I said, I agree that we should have a value for children's education and health. I think health should be in there too.
And I'd like some, if there's no comments on that, I'd like some reaction if there's any dissent about having that as a definition up front, so we don't have to have the repetition throughout the document that by Nesco community, we mean these things. And is there anything to add?
Okay, so I'm going to repeat that because there's a little bit of distraction. So Tom, our editor, like the guy who's going to make the Nescuan community plan like super clear and like sparkly, is asking, can we just say that in the Nescuan community plan, when we say Nescuan community, like we'll establish that what that means is residents, property owners, visitors, and businesses. Does the community encompass those things?
And children.
Those children are residents. Yeah.
What about also environment
Hmm.
and animals, wildlife? Like maybe some parts
This is
that
the
would be,
community.
some parts that wouldn't.
Environment is a little different than community. When we talk about community members in this particular slide that's showing, that's talking about people. And
Yeah, here it is, but other
environment.
parts of that,
So
right.
most times when we talk about community, we mean people. When we talk about environment, we should, I think, just list it as that. Maybe we should define that as well.
Yeah, and I see where you're coming from, Liz, but
Sure that
I
works,
think,
Tom.
yeah,
Because, for instance, here, it wouldn't be Nescoan visitors want Nescoan to be a place.
No,
know,
well,
this
we want,
would be a narrower use of the community. So I think you have to look at each place and see if that makes sense.
Well, more and more flora and fauna, rivers and oceans are all included as your community because it's all the same thing, really. It's all a community, whether it's a tree or a person.
although I do think,
interesting. That's a view I wouldn't have guessed.
okay, but
Well, we gotta keep ahead of the game instead of sticking with the path interpretation.
so I am in sympathy with Rand and Liz wanting to elevate the environment by including it in community. I think it may be counterproductive though, because if we really want to elevate environment, calling it out by itself and rather than kind of trying to like have a value that applies to a bunch of people that are the people in the Nescuan community and then say, oh, the environment's also in that. I think while we want the Nescuan community plan to elevate the environment and are concerned for it, I don't know that lumping that together with the people that are part of the community actually serves that purpose. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, that's a
I concur.
reasonable question.
So I have a comment.
Okay, all right.
So Tom, my concern would be if you only say Nestlin community and you have a definition in one place, it's gonna be a long document. And there's a good chance people won't read it from page 1 to page 50, whatever it is. And so they may miss the fact that community means those things. And I think we need to be careful that if they pick up the document and they read pages 5 through 8, they understand what 5 through 8 really mean. And they don't have to keep going back to definitions.
Yes, that's a trade-off. Supplying a definition every place or supplying the same words everywhere makes the document longer and holds people's interests less. So there's a trade-off between repetition and reference. And
Yeah.
that's something that I'll certainly address.
Okay,
We can deal with that in the committee.
yeah. All right.
I like it, Tom, whatever that's worth.
That's something I should share so that people can see each other.
Sure, let's, we're done the slideshow here. So, at this point, we've addressed today's, task. And I am very excited that it was more coherent and understandable today. And so I'm grateful to, Jeff for putting this through Google Genesis AI. Gemini, excuse me, trademark infringement. Because it really synthesized a lot of things that were difficult. And I want to call out Lori for putting the statements together after our editing session and putting it into the slides and making this much more understandable. And I'm really glad everyone was able to go along through each one and that we found so much agreement on these statements to date. So we will take these comments, go back to AI, no, we'll do our own wordsmithing and come back to you on, we have the 2 more sessions on May 16th and 18th.
May 15th is Wednesday. I just wanted to correct.
We're doing things on Thursday because Wednesdays are a holy day.
Okay, yes, but then
So only a few of us understand that.
I understand, but it says Wednesday, May 16th.
Then that was a typo.
All right. That's all I
my
want.
mistake, I'm sorry.
That's okay. You're allowed mistakes through all this content.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So, but before we go, this is an opportunity, if anyone thinks we've missed something big, that like, we need to list in the visions and values, now would be the time to speak up, because we have 2 more meetings to talk about it, and not just have the committee make up their own mind about what it should say.
Right.
So,
Yes, Kat.
One of the things that, going back 10 years, 2012, 13, 14, when the NESCOIN Committee for Field with Coastal Hazards developed its plan, we had huge debates over whether we as a community adapt to the climate change and coastal hazards in particular that were being predicted for us, or whether we kind of resist those things, that we armor ourselves more. You know, we will not give in to
The ocean
changes.
rising.
The ocean rising and waves, the storms, the predictions of wave heights and increasing storms, and because there's some question about the ocean rising here because we're having some uplift in this area, but the thing that we can't ignore is that the storms are going to increase in intensity. The wave heights we saw evidence of wave heights increasing close to 50% over the last 25 years on average, as research has shown in this area. So that was a debate, the overall debate. Are we going to adapt? Or are we going to resist and try to be resilient in that sense? And that hasn't come up here, and I just wanted to put it out. I don't think we're going to resolve anything, but I'm just surprised that hasn't been an issue. I mean, we live against and next to probably the greatest threat to this community that we have, and that's the ocean. What are we going to do? And I know, is Sarah still here?
Yeah.
We talk about, there are ordinances about how high you can build that riprap. And we had a researcher tell the committee that in order to, by 2040, the riprap would have to be at least 8 feet higher. They predicted, given the wave height, and this is obviously doing trend line analysis and stuff, and who knows, Mother Nature doesn't necessarily go by trend line analysis, but it's something that, we have limitations here, as currently we have limitations here in our ordinances. And if this community said, you know, we want to protect the community as is. We do not want to get in, what would that look like and what would it take? And what would the county have to approve? Or not, you know, for us to armor ourselves to the point now, you know, and there are many trade-offs. We just talked about beach and how important the beach is. Well, of course, what happens with armoring? You go to Depot Bay and you'll see what happens with armoring. There is no beach. So those are the things that at some point we should consider. And I don't know whether at a point we think about adaptation like we did in that coastal hazard overlay plan. It's called an adaptation plan in Nesco. Whether we revisit that?
Yeah.
How would that, I mean, I get what you're saying. And my sense is that this community plan is about moving forward into the future. That's my sense of things, that it is in its sense adapting. But in a vision plan, I don't know how to include those concerns about coastal hazards. And I don't even want to get into the riprap discussion because people have so many opinions about that. So, I mean, I don't know where, I mean, I recognize what you're saying, and I think there's a place for it, but is a vision plan the place for it?
Well, this isn't a vision plan. I mean, it's a community plan. And we're doing vision and value statements. And do we value this community as it stands? And we will do everything to protect it? Or do we recognize that this community as it stands may change as a result of what the ocean will want to do in the next 20, 30, 40 years?
I mean, Guy, I think that's spot on. Well, were you finished? Because I kind of.
I'm done.
So, because if we expect this community plan to last 20 years, I'm gonna throw out two words that are like they're hand grenades. But if 20 years from now, if we maybe we don't want to talk about this because we can't really speak for people when this actually is like something that the community has to confront. Maybe it's too much to take on. In fact, I bet it is. But like, there are two words that this community sooner or later will have to make a decision about, and those words are managed retreat. And like, can those resorts up on the riprap, like, can those buildings stay there, or are they going to have to go? And then I think the way the water goes, like the water runs downhill from there, or like so maybe the next 20 years is too soon for us to even try and because no.
How about South Beach? I mean, South Beach, a lot of South Beach is within the coastal hazard area. I mean, not where you live, Chad.
No, my parents figured that out. My own parents.
So I just, you know, it was the reason why we moved to where we moved from our property over in Hillsborough. Hillsborough here.
Hillsborough Street.
Hillsborough Street.
Avenue.
Hillsborough, excuse me. Hillsborough Avenue. Anyways, maybe it's something we don't take
a
on.
specific application of that is that our emergency services are located in a location where they're gonna be taken out. We won't have emergency services after a tsunami, so consideration is moving that up out of the tsunami zone, and then you run into zoning questions that it's not supposed to be built there, so then how is that managed? And if you do workforce housing for the people who are gonna live and work here, and you locate them in a tsunami zone, that's kind of not serving them very well. So there are direct implications for ordinances and the comprehensive plan that kind of go like run into each other. And
the managed retreat, I think Jeff is exactly. So, Sarah, do you want to say just
what can you say?
A quick I'm going to ask you. I'm going to ask you to address a specific thing, but so just briefly describe what Rockaway did about expanding their community boundary and moving emergency services.
Sure, I actually had to do the work on that because they took the forest zone property that was in the county And they included it into their urban growth boundary to work on a 25-year plan to eventually relocate their fire station and their emergency vehicles. That is definitely something we could look at doing here, right? So there's space in the land use program to talk about emergency services. Relocation of housing, pushing out boundaries for those reasons is a bit different. To the point though, Guy, of what you're bringing up and how it could fit into the work that we're doing today, because Jeff, I agree, this is a completely separate process. But we've talked today about the vision and values as far as resiliency, mitigation, safety, natural hazards, preserving the natural environment. You can take these values and these policies, and if we word them the right way, it tees up future work for managed retreat, different things, and going back to justification for grants, or when I use this, if we wanted to relocate the fire station in the forest zone. We've got policies in this plan that are going to support that work that stem from the vision and values that we're talking about today. So I think we keep these broad, we start honing down into them in various policies. And then that's our ticket in the future to start this next round of work, which could include funding opportunities.
So do you think we would need something more than what we already have in those things we reviewed today that specifically talked about them?
With the values, I don't think so, honestly, but we're gonna keep coming back to these values. We're, you know, to your point earlier, we are not done. These are moving and breathing and evolving through this whole process. I think where we want to have those sticking points are in the policies, which is the next phase of this work. Because it's the policies that I'm really going to look at to help you guys when you want that help to look at these other elements.
And we can read, you know, so much of this work and discussion about adaptation was done 10 years ago. And we're gonna include that document as an amendment, not amendment, but as an appendix. Because it is something that's happened in the last 20 years in Nestleton that is unique and different. And how it established that zone, but there's the discussion that's captured in that document could be something we could revisit at some point. As we get down, as Sarah says, down into the policy level here.
Okay. Hope we all have a better understanding of the process, where it's going, and that we still have a lot of work to do and a lot of opportunities for input. The number one state planning goal is public participation. So we're really grateful for everyone being here and for participating and critiquing this, so it reflects your specific points of view and the community's points of view collectively. So thank you very much for being here, and we have meetings on the 18th and 20th that we will continue with this and hone these statements. 18th and 20th.
16th and
15th and 18th, sorry for misadvertising that. Okay, you will receive notices. Thank you very much.
Yes.